ticking clock.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Hanging Out with Chops. It's great to have you all back. I'm so glad you came back to listen to another episode. Special hello to all the new listeners. Hey guys, one of the main reasons I'm doing this episode is I actually wrapped up a session. And I was so impressed by the session I received from this other studio that I actually want to talk about that today. How important it is when transferring files to each other that you do a good job and that you don't give the next engineer down the line a particular project more headaches than what they already have. So let me tell you what I got. First of all, I got a great session in. Everything was properly labeled. Everything was in some kind of order. Hey, I've seen sessions laid out all kinds of ways. Drums on the left, vocals on the right. I'm talking about as far as how the mixer is laid out. But man, I'll tell you one thing. I opened up these sessions and boom, everything just made sense. Drums, all one color. Instruments, all another color. Vocals, another color. Tracks were properly labeled. Kick in, kick out, tom 1, tom 2, tom 3, tom 4, top snare, bottom snare, left crash, right crash, room mics, crotch mic. Everything was labeled properly. The reason I bring this to your attention, guys, is if you're at that point when you're one of the engineers working on a project and you're down the line or you're at the top of the line, be courteous. I mean, I don't even know who worked on this before I did, but I really appreciate all the work that they put into this session before I got it. It made this time that I had with the artist flow extremely smoothly. Looking at the edit page, verse 1 is labeled, start of the song is labeled. So here's some things that I just want to discuss with y'all. Not just from what I saw, but from a lot of stuff I do. Obviously, the BPM is very important, and it has to be on there. If not, the session wouldn't make sense. You would be in the wrong time. But other things that are on there, guys, include them. If the key's in F, there's a whole ruler area just for the key. If you're not sure on the meter, put 1/4. If you're not sure if it's a 3/4 song or a 4/4 song, screw it, put 1/4. Make every beat the bar. What you want to do is you want to help these guys be able to cut their spots. Especially if it's some kind of crazy metal odd meter. Hell, make it in 1/8 if you have to. You want to think ahead of the next guy. Anyway, I feel like I got off on a tangent. But yeah, meter's important. Key's important. Label your sections. Verse 1, verse 2, your chorus, intros. Now I've heard this called everything. I've heard people call the intro. I've heard people call going out part the outro. I've heard people call the middle part midtro. It doesn't matter. Label it. If it happens to be a guitar solo, label it guitar solo, keyboard solo, second chorus, third chorus, chorus in new key, key change. For God's sake, if it's in G and it goes to F, label it G. And then when it goes to F, label it here, key change, new key starts here. Make it easy on the next guy. Hey, believe me, it comes around to you. Okay, I feel like I'm throwing you too much. Let's just cover the basics. Obviously, you want to have all your tracks labeled, but plugins and effects are also important. If you're not sure the next guy is going to have the plugins you have and they're important, send them a dry mix and a wet mix, or send them dry tracks and wet tracks. What do you mean? Dry tracks is the actual audio with nothing on it. The dry audio with no reverb, no delays, no crazy compression. If what you're adding on is that important, send it on wet stems. so that they have it there and they kind of get an idea of where the project was headed. Virtual instruments. Guys, if you're using any kind of virtual instruments and there's a chance that the next guy down the line doesn't have that virtual instrument, for God's sakes, render it down to audio and send both. Here's a virtual instrument with a MIDI track. That should be on one. And then here's the actual audio of it on another one. I don't want to be preachy, and I also don't want to sound like I'm getting after y'all. But this is important, guys. If we're at this level, come on. Look out for the next guy down the line. So this cat came in, cut some vocals. I made sure to absolutely label everything. Everything that was going from here. I mean, obviously he has a session. Inside of Pro Tools, inside of Logic, inside of Ableton, there's special areas where you can put your info. If you're going to send it on to the next guy, put your name on there, put your email, put your phone number. If something happens that they don't know how to move forward on this project, put some point of contact where the guy can call you up and say, hey, I happen to have gotten one of your sessions and I don't know what's going on here. You could be like, oh yeah, sure. Let me bring it up on my side. Where are you at? What bar are you on? I'm on this section. Oh, okay. What was going on is we were changing keys, or we're going from acoustic to electric, or we're going from Rhodes to Hammond, or something where you can, bring it up on your side and help the next guy out. All right, I actually took a quick pause so I could actually look up where this session came from that started this all. It came from Orb Recording Studios in Austin, Texas. So if anyone's checked that out before, my hat's off to y'all. Thank you for great recording practices, and I do appreciate the work you did. Now, this one instance, I actually got the session, which is nice. A lot of times I don't get the full session. Let me show you the advantage of getting the whole session. The advantage of getting the whole session is you see how everything is laid out, what they're going for. There's no guess if he's recording 44.1, 48, 96, 192. Everything's laid out in front of you. You can see whether he's capturing on wave, or whether he's capturing, or if there's MP3s on there. Gives you a good idea of where you're at. The bad of it, everything has a good and a bad. The bad of it is these are large files. So I think, I want to say it was around 60 gigs. So it was it was a hefty file. It wasn't something light. Other times I get stems. What are stems? Stems are like sub building blocks. So I might get all the drums rendered down to maybe a stereo track, or I might get the whole rhythm section down to one track. So I might get maybe 3 tracks, let's say drums, rhythm section, and keys. And then to that, perhaps we might build horns, we might build strings, or we might build vocals. Other times, I might get just the tracks themselves, everything individual, but not in a session. So I would get kick, the usual kick in, kick out. You've heard me list them all. Bass, guitar. Sometimes you do get all of them. You get, bass DI, which will probably be like the bass direct. Bass amped, which would be maybe a mic that they dropped on the bass cabinet. And same thing for guitars. You might get straight guitar in, maybe through a plugin, and then also maybe through an amp. But all be labeled properly. Same thing on acoustic guitars. You might get, acoustic left, acoustic right, or you might get a mono. But where I'm going with all this, you need to respect the process. Especially at our level, guys. I mean, if you're recording where at this level where, like I've mentioned before, maybe they don't do it all in one place. You know, a lot of these touring bands, they get in where they can. If they happen to be in a city for a couple of days, they may track drums there. They move on to the next state. They might have a couple of days down, so they might be able to go track guitars there, and they just take their session with them. Back in the day, they used to carry your reel-to-reels around, and you would slap them on and continue working. Now in this digital age, you know, you carry around your hard drives. But if you're along the lines and you're one of those guys that happens to work on one of these sessions, for God's sakes, be courteous. Label your work. Leave all the mystery outside. Now, another thing, this is just me personally, just my personal opinion. Don't be afraid to stand outside the box on some of these projects. I had a band that just came in, and they decided to bring in horn players. Great. They happen to have done horn parts on the keyboards. So I was like, great. I was like, hey, dude, you know, I can print these out for you so that the horn players don't have to come, listen to everything. So basically, once the horn players showed up, what I told them was, hey, look, bro, the keyboard player kind of played it with a real feel on it. So if I print this out, you might get some kind of weird 30-second tied over to a dotted 16 to a, you know, because it's his real feel. Or if you want it, I can quantize it down to, let's say, 16 notes, and then print that out. It'll be easier to read. It might be a little more square, but if you go with the flow and kind of listen for, you know, the groove they had, that might work out easier for you. But if I'm going to print it out exactly the way the guy jammed it, I'll gladly print it out. So we weren't sure, so I went ahead and just printed out both. I printed out one that was the actual way it was performed, and then one that I kind of rendered down. You know, I quantized down to 16 notes. So once it actually printed out, it was easier to read. So if that's something, guys, that you've never done, it's very easy to do. I would say maybe spend a couple of hours and really get into it. It's on a lot of these DAWs. I mean, I use Pro Tools a lot. So on Pro Tools, you can actually, bring up your score page, maybe get rid of all the instruments and just leave whatever. This one was a full horn section, so it was actually alto, tenor, trombone, and 2 trumpets. So just know your keys. So we transposed altos were E flat, tenor saxes were B flat, trumpets were also B flat, trombones were C. What does that mean? So basically, a lot of these instruments are pitched instruments. So if everyone plays a C, if a trombone plays a C and a trumpet plays a C and a saxophone plays a C, they're not going to sound like the same notes. The trombone will actually play a C, it'll sound a C because it's a C instrument. You know, a trumpet plays a C, it's going to sound a B flat. So for those, grab your MIDI parts, bring it up on the score, and then inside there, just transpose it. This is for a E flat instrument. This is for a B flat instrument. Print it out. Help them out, guys. You're helping them save money. This little time that you have them save, this little money you have them save, hey, they might do something else. They might add a string part or castanet parts or God knows what. Also, going back to labeling, it is nice if you could actually put, for example, let's say drums. We'll just use a snare. You can say 57 on top, 57 on bottom. Now, if you ran that signal through anything, if there's a particular preamp that you ran, list it. Hey, I ran it through Avalon. Hey, I ran it through a Warm Audio. Hey, I ran it through a Neve. I ran it through an SSL. Whatever you ran it through, just list it. It may actually help you out in the long run. It's happened to me a bunch of times. People come back, they want to punch in. Hey, I didn't like this one part. I want to fix this. And I can't even remember what mic I used on that trumpet solo. or I can't remember what mic I used on that string or harp. But if it's properly labeled, it'll be right there in the session. Oh yeah, I used two SM81s and they both ran through SSLs, or they ran through this warm audio preamp. There's no mystery. It'll help you out in the long run. When you do have the luxury of working on the actual session, it's not a bad idea to take full advantage of those playlists. I do, all the time, especially with vocalists. I'll put on their first take, still warming up. Let the guy go through it. I'll usually tell him, hey, let's just run through it. Let's get familiar again with the song. I go ahead and capture it, and I dump it down to my first playlist, first run through. And run through it again, second run. Once I start recording a couple of keepers, I start saving them. Keeper 1, keeper 2, or take 1, take 2, take 3. And then by this point, we might have enough that me and the singer will sit down and be like, all right, let's hear everything you did. And let's Frankenstein the perfect part. Hey, I like this verse, or I like these couple of words of this take, and I like this tail of this take. Hey, grab it from the playlist, move it to the top. Once we have that perfect track, even that, I'll make a copy and throw it in the playlist. Same thing with harmonies, especially with harmonies. I feel like I do this more with harmonies than with actual real vocals, only because real vocals, I may get 30, 40, 50 stabs at it. Sometimes vocal guys, when they do the harmonies, they might do 2 or 3 takes and be like, that's good enough. We'll melodyne it. Or, we'll use wave tune or auto tune or whatever you use for pitch correction. So those few couple of takes, I make sure I grab every single one. But inside the get info section, great place for you to put important information. Your phone number, your email, your name. And I wasn't ready to get into the psychology of a lot of this. I was going to save that for another episode, but let's get into it. Be cool, guys. Be nice people. I get it. It's hard to tell someone, one more time. Let's try it again. Let's take it from the top. You're a little flat. Breath support. You're rushing. A rarity. You're dragging. I get it. After the 50th take, you might run out of patience. But it just takes the wrong little inflection or the wrong word or the wrong attitude, and mentally they're gone. This happened to me the other day. I'll admit it, I effed up pretty bad. I didn't mean it. I'm used to working kind of fast. So we had the first guy come in, he did his part. Next guy came in, did his part. People are come in the morning, finish that, come in the afternoon, come in the evening, hit the next day. A couple of days in, an actual girl came in. And she was singing like a second verse. Well, she had a very thin and very shallow but very fast vibrato. And she didn't have problems with pitch. She actually had great pitch, great delivery. But at the end of every phrase, she did this very fast and, like I said, very shallow vibrato. So she would be like, eh. And, of course, I've had the other way where people are doing, a ridiculously large vibrato and slow, and they'll be like, ah. Okay. But hers was very fast and very shallow. So it was like, ah. So without thinking, just trying to get to the next track, I told her, hey, your vibrato is too fast. Slow it down. And the next take, she did it again. So I was like, hey, by the way, sounds good. Let's go ahead and let's slow that vibrato and let's widen it up a little bit. It sounds a little Elmer Fudd-ish. Elmer Fudd-ish. I lost her. Tear rolling down. I didn't even catch myself saying it. It's just something that came out really fast. I was just trying to get what I needed out of her so I can get to the next track. And that wasn't cool. And I apologized. And I apologized. And I apologized over and over and over. But she was gone. Mentally, she was gone. You know. And I explained to her, hey, we'll just get to this section. And here it is. You know, whatever it was. Da, da, you know, nice and wide vibrato. And I just could not get her. She mentally just shut down on me. She was just trying to get out of here. Literally. She just wanted to leave. She was embarrassed. And I messed up. So, thank God the playlists were there and I was able to, once she left, I was able to grab one of those and I actually synthetically made a vibrato for her. But anyway, this brings me back to the psychology of recording. At the end of the day, you have to be a cool cat. I really pride myself in always being able to get the best out of someone. You know, if that means, hey, let's take a break. Let's go grab a bite. You know, talk to them. Get them in their comfort zone. It's all right, bro. One more. Hey, that sounds great. I'm going to save it, but give me another one. Whatever you got to do to try to get a better and better take, you know, without destroying them. Obviously, horn players, you don't want to destroy their chops. Singers, you want to blow out their throat, you know. Drummers, you know, they get tired. And you'll hear it in their intensity. Be cool guys, man. I know what I'm telling you. Be cool cats. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope I wasn't being too preachy. I hope I wasn't sounding like I was getting after people. But I feel like what we're talking about is important. Especially where we're at, where we're getting paid, and our responsibilities. It's not something to take on lightly. So I'm not saying do your job. I'm saying do beyond your job. Label stuff. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Hanging out with Chops at gmail.com. Drop me a note. Drop me a line. If you like what I'm doing, if you hate what I'm doing, let's get to know each other. Catch you on the next one.
Stories told without a clue. Lost in chaos, nothing new. Searching for the something true. Faint whispers in the blue. Tune in, get lost in the flow. Unknown faces in a show. Spinning tales from long ago with nowhere else to go. We're hanging out with Chops. Time just never stops. Answers fade like drops on a broken ticking clock.